Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Town of Minto Budget 2015, the first meeting. If everybody had a chance to read your budget book, I just like to say it's well laid out. I was bragging about it today with the mayor from St. Wellington. I said maybe you want to look at it, so who knows. But I feel proud of the way this is all laid out. And we've worked on that for the last 4 years ago. Lord, thanks for continuing the efforts. Keep improving it every year. So, anyways, we'll get started. So, call to order. We'll be in order here, Bill.
There's an agenda there. Bring your mind from your bridge.
I got it, yeah. Exposure any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. We heard none. No motion to go and close. Open. Minutes to be removed. We don't. Additional items disposed as under business.
Unless there are.
Anybody want to dispose of anything? I don't know what we're doing today. All right. And then I just already did the introduction, kind of. Do you want me to?
Okay, so there's a motion there, if you could read it.
Into committee of the whole?
Yeah.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Anderson. The committee of the whole convenes in the Town of Minto Council. All in favor? Okay. Presentation.
Before we start, can I just kind of reiterate
Sure.
what Mayor Bridge said? I mean, even in the past 4 years, this has come a long way.
Yeah.
But this is a fabulous binder, and I want to really thank Bill and board, the department heads, and any other staff that were responsible for putting this together. You don't need a financial background to read and understand this and comment on it. I think all council will agree on that. Someone like Jean, as a new councillor, did you find it very understandable?
Pretty much. I have a few questions.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as understanding what they were presenting, it was fabulous, and I just want to thank you so much.
I was impressed with the way it was laid.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge and Councillor Caldwell. We'll go through the format a little bit. Just thank you for the praise, and it was a hard work by all the department heads, Meg, and we managed to pull it together on Friday and got it to you. So there are a few little glitches here and there. And when you put together a budget as relatively complex as this, there are a few things. You should have on your desk a new tab for economic development, or it may be in your binder already. And we'll go through that when we get to that. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with council, is move forward and go through a rather brief presentation just to kind of lay the framework. And then go through just a refresher on how the budget sheets work, and then go into the budget, operating budget for each of the departments. You can go in any order you wish. You know that I like to have quotes, so those are our quotes for this budget. Margaret Thatcher, you and I come by road and rail, but economists travel by our own infrastructure. And Winston Churchill, who seemed to be very popular last term with Councillor Hembley, it is always wise to look ahead, but difficult to look further than you can see. Our theme for the budget, as outlined in the written report, is hitting the ground running. And hitting the ground running, I think, really means being ready to and able to continue to upgrade our capital infrastructure, maintain it properly. And I think that there's some information in the background report that allows us to do that. You will have most of that discussion, I think, at the next budget meeting when we get into capital. But having a sound operating approach, money going into reserves and so forth, will help with all those decisions that are yet to come. So here's the itinerary for today. We're already ahead of schedule, sort of. Our presentation will be rather brief, and then for day 2, we're looking at in March, a somewhat similar timetable. We have an open house proposed for March 17th. We're thinking that date may be moved back a week or two. We'll see how things go. Depends on on your input to the budget as we go through. A bit of an economic backdrop to where we sit. I don't know about you, but I find it hasn't become very clear since 2008. Our unemployment rates are still relatively high, nationally 6.5, provincially 7%. Both of them are down slightly. Our local unemployment rate, we always quote it plus or minus 4%, which is relatively close. Cost of living sits around 2.2. Federally, the deficit is trending downward rather quickly, and the provincial deficit is set to go up next year a little bit and then drop down by 2017, 2018. Their estimates in their budget, provincial budget, are around 2.1%. There's some information there on housing starts. It's certainly not a growing or a steadily growing market. It's kind of up and down, flatlining at times. The average home price though in Ontario is $433,000. That's more than twice what it is in Minto here. It's according to the provincial CMHC statistics. More about audited reports and statements to the province. We're now up to 287. We used to be 280, so somehow we got more. And I had sent to you an email from Minto, and they're still on that issue. We talked about that last week. So some of the provincially mandated programs hit the budget last year. There's still remnants of them this year that continue to keep operating kind of very steadily increasing. Your favorite slide and mine about the strategic planning backdrop, where the strategic plan sits relative to the official plan and provincial policy, the various integrated and other plans, ISCP, ICSP, culture plan, financial plans. We're actually going to reference those where we can in the budget. And these are the ones that are implemented right now. So that's why I kind of emphasize that a little bit of green. I could have put it in red, but I chose green for gold, not red for deficits. Just a refresher on what our vision and mission are as we're moving through the budget. The strategic directions cover all those broad areas in the strategic plan. The municipal culture plan, we have not really gone through that, but those are some of the things that we believe in as a community. This plan was approved in 2011. It began with the previous council and was approved at the previous council. Creativity and culture foundations for a prosperous and sustainable community. A number of other value statements in there. Importance of natural environment, cultural heritage, artists and creators, cultural groups. So I think if you think of all the services we provide here, you can kind of imagine where they lay out in some of those plans. Some things about how we tell our story, creating capacity, cultivating talent and innovation, leveraging our assets, working together, enhancing the places that we inhabit. The ISCP, I always switch S and C around, but integrated sustainable community plans, you know, those were required as a condition of sustaining gas tax. All municipalities were to have them. And if I were 100% honest to you, which I believe I am all the time, I can't find them in a lot of municipalities. So I don't think everybody did one. But we did, and ours is, again, something that gives us guidance every day. That's my new favorite slide, is the rooster climbing in. But I wish he was going the other way, because that implies growth. But anyway, yeah. So fiscal and ecological responsibility.
The hands are going up.
Yes. Is it a rooster, right? It's a chicken, I can't believe it's that. It's a fowl. Focus on health and recreation, retain enterprises with low environmental impact, fulfilling jobs for people, agricultural abundance, optimum population. That was an interesting. So what is the right population for Minto? Without overpopulation, and that's a relative thing compared to a lot of other places who would love to have the space we have here. The fire master plan, there's some mission statement within it, and the core values: commitment, community service, integrity, professionalism, teamwork, and trust. And there's recommendations throughout that plan. And we heard a presentation last meeting from Fire Chief on where we are implementing that. Roads and bridges, brought the roads needs study for everyone to see. We've heard discussion about making sure we bring forward the priorities in that plan. That's a capital budget decision. But just in terms of operating, this study over the next 6 years had $9.4 million of work in it, which is 1.57 million annually just for roads. So we have to make sure we're keeping that figure in mind. These figures, the one that's mentioned in the report is the depreciation of our assets, 2.5 million roughly. We use them as benchmarks, and we'd like to make sure our capital is above that. Bridge and culvert assessments, if we do that Bride Road culvert, which we have the grant in for, we'll kind of catch up in that area to some degree. We'll have 6 years before we need to do another culvert. But in the interim, of course, I think we should set aside money so that we have those funds in place. A couple of priorities that come out of the road management plan are listed there. 4th line, George Street, we did last year. The 3rd line, we'll hear talk about this year. 6th line, Laura Street, Harrison, of course, James Street, Palmerston. And what was the one in Clifford? Ann Street. We'll hear more about that at capital budget.
CO White, what about Gillespie Lane?
That's all part of the.
Is that third?
I don't think it was identified in here, but we'll be bringing that forward.
Yeah.
Recreation needs, Harrison Minto Community Complex. We expect to have 2 more trailers removed out of that facility, maybe as early as this week or next. But with that change, of course, will be the need to do an overall plan. We also have the issue of the park behind the fire hall and its condition and what to do with it long term, and the fire chief has been doing some research on that. So, Town of Minto Trails, we've started with the Councillor Anderson, a committee of council on trails. The idea is to build membership in that, and the staff is prepared to support that. And we'll look at seeing if we can't just link the trails from Palmerston all the way to Clifford, and maybe taking advantage of some funding from the county. That could mean even using the unopened road allowance behind concession D to the 13th line, which is, if you look over on the map behind us, an area right in here where we have no unopened road allowance. But as you can imagine, with people who farm there, occupied road allowances as their own maybe for a long time, we need a lot of work into talking to the public about the concerns they may have about doing that. But that's something we'd like to see over the next 4 years emerge and see where that takes us.
You have to do a walkable on that one.
Yeah.
So, council walkable to go down that one.
So let them know first.
Oh, yeah.
Can we use the scoop?
Intercept us. And the terrain is obviously very back there,
Yeah.
so it'll be quite interesting. But anyway, and we haven't done a full master plan here for some time now. We did do an urban design drawing for Clifford, and maybe it's something we can look at for the other 2 communities. So just trying to sort of frame the kind of planning that we're looking at and getting down to budget level. This is a distribution of our tax dollars, 37% town, so whenever you're talking to people out there, if it's a $3,000 tax bill, just over 1,000 of it comes to us. We still have no word on what's happening with the education portions. We don't know. And
I
there's,
see a window to get that work.
No, I'll need this to help me.
usually sit with me, Gordon.
Yeah.
Take the first one.
Get up here for the heat. You can't sit there.
Normally that starts about the end of November
Yeah.
or December, so it's
Really,
this
really
year.
weird thing.
And all I know is all the seminars we went to over the fall, if you remember the education and finance minister, they were saying the province can't continue to keep cutting this, and somewhere we've got to get some more money in the education system. So I wouldn't count on that happening again this year. I think that 16 is going to be very soon that towards spending. So.
Next slide is just a distribution of some of the dollars. One of the things you don't notice in there is water and sewer, but we do have public works, general that, admin, fire, and recreation. Those are the largest portions of our budgets, followed by economic development, building, and council budget. In terms of process, how we've handled it in the past, and if the council's comfortable with this, is what we've prepared to do with department heads, is when we get to each budget, the mayor usually identifies which one we're in. The department head will be here to ask any questions, but we're not going to present the whole sheet. I mean, the idea is hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. If you have a question about an initiative or some kind of correction or something didn't add up or whatever, right, that'll be the time for you to bring that up. And then if you are comfortable generally with what you see, when the mayor announces we move to the next budget, then we just move to the next budget. We don't do a resolution for everyone. And then at the end, we leave the initiatives in here as open, so we don't adopt these proceedings in committee of the whole until they're done. So that'll be after the next meeting, and after the public meeting, then we can adopt everything kind of at once. That's the way we've sort of done it in the past. Just a little bit on your sheets, if you want, just to kind of link how they work together. I color coded it this year, just for fun. If you look at the yellow on your forms, this is using the council budget as an example. Those are your 2014 budget. So at the top, where you see 2014, that should link up with the amount that's over in the past and projected side, and also at the bottom of the cover sheets and for the detail sheet in behind. Okay, that's for 2014. The next one are actuals, so in green. So you should see an actual figure up the top line in the front sheet, and that should match up down at the bottom with that figure down there. Okay, and it's the same for all of them.
We have different colors. We have different color coding.
We have different colors.
All in the report or in the, oh, okay. Yeah, it's different. There's an explanation in the cover report, and this is a slide. The light blue here, which in the other is not highlighted, is the initiative. So the initiatives are listed here as best we can. Sometimes they're amalgamated a little bit. You should find line items over here that result in those increases or decreases. And then finally, this one is in red, but over here and then light blue over on the other sheet. This year, 2015 budget recommended, and those four figures should all be the same. Okay? So that's just a summary on how the sheet works.
We don't have that.
We're not in color.
You don't have this sheet, all you have is a little summary.
Right.
So I was just going it over here, but it's the same format for each sheet,
Yeah.
and so you should be able to find it the same way. And that's it for me. For now.
For now.
Before we start on department, can I just ask a question on the general? Or when you did your explanation? You talked about getting downloads from the provincial, and you mentioned accessibility regulations. Is that education or enforcement? Is it, what did,
It's education and enforcement. We have to continue with education, and we have to report annually as well on what we've done. And we have to upgrade our facilities. When we make changes to our facilities, they have to be accessible. And we have to increase we have to change our processes for hiring people and accommodation and so forth. So there's quite a number of things.
but when the provincial government introduced the accessibility rules and regulations, was it right off the bat to be enforced by municipality on the municipal level?
Yeah, it's staggered. There's a whole table of different deadlines depending on public sector, and we're one of the first. And then a lot of the others go by sign of employees, like 15, and then that too. But as Bill says, anything going forward, like on the adult standard, you have to incorporate that now. Whereas some of the private sectors, it's not a bit.
But I guess what I was asking is, are we responsible for educating the private sector on it? No, okay.
They
So
are
it's just
responsible.
as it applies to ourselves, it's not, okay, our municipality.
Volunteers.
Right.
And council. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, there was, the built standard has just come into effect within the last year. Prior to that, there was communication, there was an employment standard, there's several. So we're on to. Sure.
Yeah, just, this is an overall broad comment, just in context. Where we are now, give or take, 20,000, whatever. And in consideration of assessment increases, so like during the year, you have write-offs and write-downs, and then when the new roll comes out, you have the new year, we're in the third year of our phase, and last year, in 2014, we had roughly 307,000 allocation to the capital budget. So this one here will allow us to maintain or be in the neighborhood of 400,000 for capital at this level of operating. So that's just something to keep in the back.
As it entered, including the slight increase in economic development, it was just maybe under 4. Very
Yeah,
close
about
to
that, and we still have, well, just for context, our last levy was 4,170,000. If we did 3% onto the final adjusted one, that's going on in P20. So here we're roughly 3.9 million, so we've got about 400,000 in play for capital, and you can decide if that's enough or not.
Anyway, if you're keeping score at this point, the budget that's presented by the department is right now, subject to your review, is slightly under 4% on our own. And that would include upwards of 400,000 per cap. In there already. So Gord, being the treasurer, was going to give you some information on where we are as far as reserves and some of
that's good.
the measures that are out.
Sure. So this is again, I haven't got the 2014 year and finished yet, but this is kind of an update of some of our ratios and things like that. So as you can see, our reserves are not quite keeping up with our taxation. So our taxation is coming up. So ideally, we'd like to see that figure go up. But again, if you increase your reserves, you're increasing your taxation. So just something to be aware of. And this accounts for some of the cash flow problems too, because we're carrying a larger receivable. This one is looking at reserves as trying to cover your own revenues. So again, higher would be better. There's a real division between water and sewer, as you can see too. So our sewer reserves look very good right now, and what the revenue is. And excluding water and sewer basically being pretty flat.
Would you like that to be 100% for?
Well,
Ideally.
ideally, sure. But we have to be realistic.
Gordon, was the water one affected by the installation of meters?
Not yet, but it will be.
Yeah.
Yes, so going forward, that could change. So this is a good thing. You're probably more familiar with this at the provincial and federal level. It's what level, and say somewhere approaching 25–30%. Even with our debt, it's still a very small amount. So in certain departments, such as sewage and water and another, debt servicing is really high, but in the overall context, it's low, and it's got lower over the past few years too. Again, debt to reserve, we want that one going down, and you can see it's improved, especially in the non-water and sewer division too. So again, if you can have your reserves, that's good too. And this is kind of an interesting one. This really, you can have people that come from the city and they come here, how come our base is so high? Well, part of it is our assessment base is relatively low compared to all the property that we have. But again, you can see a very good trend in assessment that's having to cover debt, so that's going down from 1352 to 787. That's good. And this is not so good, but again, our percentage of unpaid taxes has had an unfavorable trend. I think we see some improvements. We've done a lot. There's the end of 14, in the 15s, started well too, but taxes are higher, and unfortunately, some of the people that can't pay the taxes, it's because the taxes are high. So this ratio has climbed, and again, and on the positive side, the assessment per capita is going up. So the more that assessment, this is how we eventually, and that's our whole purpose for economic development, and that is to have more assessment dollars carrying our housing tax rate to go down.
I'd like to comment on this one just quickly. You can see how high Ontario is relative to ours. So we're quite a bit lower, and that's one of the reasons why we've benefited for our costs are essentially the same as they are south of us. In Wellington, where a lot of municipalities had home decreases, Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund decreases. But the formula now recognizes that our assessments are lower. Essentially, a CAO or a treasurer or any staff person is more or less paid about the same, no matter where you are in certainly in the general area here. So it recognizes that there's a big gap there.
That's true, and this partially explains why our education levels gone up. It's not like education costs have gone up, but Ottawa and Toronto area, and actually the north in the last one, their assessment has been rising fast, so they're paying more education dollars.
Gordon? Our assessment level's gone up, you're saying, but
Yes.
our population,
Population, my opinion, I think is well steady gone up a bit. Now, in Stats Canada, some of that increase in the
Yeah.
last month.
so more assessment,
Yeah,
less people.
and that's a good thing. And asset consumption, so this comes back to like your amortization, depreciation of assets. You want that again to be ignored because if you're using your assets and not replacing them, that's probably your expensive deficit. And again, reserves for capital, on the whole, have gone up. We had to do some of that last year. If you think back maybe 5 years ago, we had that taking the debt figure at 1,300. So we've been able to increase our reserves higher than the debt per capita. Again, when you get to the capital budget, we may have to go backwards a bit on that. But we are there. And there's debt per capita going down. So that gives us some meaning, if you like, to invest.
I think, Gord, that was one of the strategies we had because we with the federal government not coming up with a lot of dollars in the last few years because of the deficit funding. Provincial government, same thing, really squeezed. So hopefully now, if we can get some of that funding.
Yeah, and if you think back 2008, 09, that's when the federal province put money out and we took advantage of it. So it's not like I think we had bad debt.
No, it's just it was the nature of what had to happen at that time. So now we saw that we should be in great shape going forward.
And again, this is trying to put a value of our hard assets, our fixed assets, and D stands for net book value, so that's the cost of sold depreciation, and TCA's tangible capital assets, so that's like fixed assets or hard assets. So again, combination of depreciation that declines over time and reinvestment, so we buy a new truck or we have a new road or something that inflates it. Like included in their net book value might be the Harrison Town Hall and the train station that the current fair market value is really high, but their book value is maybe $10,000 or something. So it's a figure, it's something to keep in mind, but it's by no means something accurate.
Are there any questions at this point, Council, before we get into the individual? Okay, so we're on the first tab of your budget, which is admin. First budget, Mayor Bridges, Mayor and Council. So if you have any questions on where that one
How's everybody?
Decreasing?
Yeah, it's decreasing.
Yeah. Is that wise? I just have, a thought that I sure wouldn't like to see us over budget at the end.
But I think, where were we trending to be under budget this year? Yeah.
I think that's something and there's a new, per diem sensor, I think, at least maintain continuity.
We worked through the numbers, I think, on this, but the meetings we're supposed to be going to and doing. Again, it goes back to, we talked about before, the perception of, well, we give ourselves sort of an increase in a sense on the base pay, but we also then at the same time, I said it'll come at budget time, we basically, I think, rectified some things there that we can clarify better. So, Bill, you work these numbers out now, we board, based on our history of what we go to and what we, but even with the new base salaries going to where they were supposed to go.
I think this assumes that you're going to more things than you might actually turn out to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we even got a little bit of a safeguard in here, to be honest with you. I'm quite pleased the way it came out, because that's why I thought the whole process was going to go well anyways. And when we saw it, and again, it comes down, anytime anybody says anything about council remuneration, it really comes down to budget time all the time too. And when you get paid a salary, there's a lot of other things that enter into it. And I like the way you broke it out. I mean, different times we've had more meetings because of things that were going on. But the last few years, we've been down to that 24, 26, 26.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about the number of meetings. I'm not sure about 2009, that seems a little outrageous, but 2010, we have 36, but in the 2014 budget book, it said there was, 36 it says here. But in the 2014 book, it said that there was 26, and I think maybe the wrong number was grabbed out of the row. And then on the very next page, it says council meetings of 26 in 2010 too. So I actually am not sure that the number of meetings is reduced that much. I think we're pretty much in the same ballpark. And that 50 seems like quite an anomaly too.
That was amalgamation. 50. That was the year of amalgamation.
2009?
Oh, 99.
Yeah.
No, that was our 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary, yeah, I have no idea what that was.
So, yeah,
Could
so
be
I,
strategic plan, there could be a bunch of other things. That were involved.
yeah, I'm not sure. And it's hard to say what was called council meetings. It could be a measured thing, but I don't know, I was here and I sure don't remember. Being at a meeting every single week, that's just, yeah, that's just seems a little strange. But anyways, but certainly since 2010, I think the numbers been pretty level around that. Maybe the second week or so.
Yeah, it's not significant, I'm concerned about that.
These are recommended, so it's up to you guys if you wish to change any of the figures.
Yeah.
Just let us know.
I know when I saw this, I talked to you and I feel comfortable with the explanation. I don't think there's, we, as Gord said, I think we've actually given a little bit of a cushion there.
Just an administrative thing. In the budget to actual issues, second sentence just kind of ends. Term was approved which,
It should be period.
so the word which shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Was the new remuneration policy was approved which,
Period.
So just period after it.
period, no, was approved, period. The word which shouldn't be.
Should we look at
First page.
First page, budget to actual issues.
right here? Yeah.
Now, Bridge, the CAO clerk's budget.
Are you happy with that? I'm happy. Move on. How much do you got? Somebody else got some?
Mayor Bridge, in the CAO clerk's budget, there's an increase for wages. That's our reorganization, so it's actually not a new person, it just brings a person who was partly in treasury into the clerks.
Yeah.
And then there's 12,000 for records management. That's a whole place filler for now. It depends on which company you select, and if you choose to go ahead with that. We'll have more information coming to you, but we have budgeted for that, just in case. And we're hoping that you will choose to do that, but that's what the two largest drivers in that increase are.
Questions on that? Gene?
Just had a question on the town vehicle use policy. Is there any, so I just reading it up, so you can spit it, or,
Sets out who can use vehicles and who can take vehicles home.
and go over taxable benefits to those, what is it?
It can be.
Some of them have pens.
Much you say have.
And you can compare the personal use cases.
It can be.
Keyboards.
So some of them are used for personal use then as well?
Not so much, well, the last calculation we didn't, but in other years we have had that.
That's a good one.
More vehicles are taken out of town, the question is that personal use or not. Years ago, people who had vehicles that took them home would stop at a location in Minto and then take their own vehicle home. But the public works director, the CAO clerk, chief building official, fire chief, person who's on patrol, those are the ones that come to mind. Offhand.
I have a question on the vehicle as well. Is that on the schedule for replacement?
No, the one in this department is not.
Yeah. Do you think that perhaps that maybe should go on?
It'll be up to you if you want to replace it or just
No.
not have it.
No. How do I say this? For fire trucks, we do reserves and whatnot. Should we be doing that for that van as well?
I'm not recommending it.
No? Okay, thank you.
I think when it's done, it's done.
It's nice stuff.
Mine's a really basic question. Who all included in this? I don't know how many staff that includes. It's salary, but who do we account
Myself
for?
and the pay.
Okay.
There's a portion of it goes out to water and sewer.
Any other questions? Maybe?
I just had a question on the legal services. Our budget is quite a bit lower than our actual, and we do a lot of real estate in the works. Do you think it's going to go down to 12,000 from a current of 13?
Most of the real estate ones end up being reduction in proceeds. So the legal, the real estate are ones that we maybe do some work and some doesn't come through. The good chunk of the previously was the solar energy contracts and all that. So legal in the end ends up being all the legal fees that we can't put anywhere else in. So it is hard to figure, and I know last year it's really high.
For the last 2 years, it's been substantially over budget, and I just wondered, are we fooling ourselves by trying to think this year's budget will be different? Is solar dead? What is the status of our solar?
We do not have solar initiatives this year, but I
Okay.
Just, I had one other question, on the, what do you call this, the spreadsheet. It says there was no expenses for election printing. Or did they just swallow it up and
may
say?
just be an allocation issue.
Okay, so I was pretty sure we had paper balance. Okay,
Okay, any other questions?
Paper ballots were supplied by the company that does the
That was part of our
voting, so it would be in that contract.
yeah.
But there might have been printing in other areas. It may not be allocated there.
Want to move forward to treasury then? The next?
Sure. Okay, so again, we've got a lot of ups and downs, and both CEO, clerk, and treasurer do include things again. Good, we made a change for estimate on interest rates, but that was started. Reserve transfer, again, that's kind of when calculating for the system as the person like to see the tax increase. If I have to vary it, that's very convenient there. Again, we moved some staff dollars around. I don't think we'll have quite as much special consulting this year. That mostly the case and the various studies and things like that. However, we have implemented 2 new ways in our customers and residents can pay their fees, and that's e-post, which is getting your bill electronically and paying it that way. And we also have online credit card payments, so you know, I think that we'll never have credit cards, but this is an initiative that the customer will bear the cost of it, so it's not clear. But there are some amenities that we do. So again, what I'm hoping is the option of credit card will help with that unpaid taxes and unpaid revenue too.
Gordon, so if somebody pays by credit card, then the whatever percentage cost for that goes back to the client?
Think of
So
like
how
your
would somebody
white,
do that?
think of like your white minimum bank machines, where if you want to pay $5, instead of going down the street to the bank, you can do that. So not saying it's a sensible thing to do, but you know, it gets the town off your back, you want to get some air off.
Yeah,
you know,
convenience.
you know.
Okay.
Those things, and again, there's some things that I was so, and again, we have a lot of revenue items and tax write-offs that are very difficult to forecast. But, that's basically
My only question, this is under expenses, the asset management plan.
yeah.
There's a budget in there for 20,000 again this year. Is there additional work being done?
That's going to cover both the software fees, kind of like the records management system. It's
An annual
web-based
fee?
system. Yeah, and then updating the GIS. So we kind of make an allocation between here and public works and water and sewer. So it's an estimate.
It just
I'm
seems so
hoping
much
it's
higher
not
than what the actual costs are, but
Yeah, it may not be as high, but may end up that we'll have to do something in another department, so. But if we do have to have something.
Well, could be a budget item, I'm not sure, but I have a real problem with our pay stubs. Our payroll, I look at that, I don't know when we would have to change the whole new program and stuff. I look at my payroll and I have no idea whether it's paid for 4 meetings at $85, 2 meetings at $50. Whenever I worked anywhere, and still whenever I work anywhere, when I get a pay stub, it shows I get this amount of money for this, and this is the money that goes out. I see overtime hours, I don't want overtime, and I see, and I've got Lori to explain it to me about 6 times.
Yeah, this is one.
And she explains it pretty well, and I look at it and say, yeah, I don't get it. I don't know whether we can set up a better system. I know also that there's part-timers that have difficulty knowing what their hours are. Full-time staff usually get, the amount in per week that they get, and then you can see extras that they get. But somebody like us or somebody like a part-timer, they have no idea what their hours are. It's just really.
Well, I can maybe get Lauren to put it down in paper if that's it. I'm no.
I know there's 1/3 off and there's all that.
Yeah.
I understand all that. And still, you look at one email. It'd be nice to have it a little clear.
Yeah.
It's just,
I don't disagree with you. It's very hard to understand. But part of the issue is the 2 different tax rates depending on that.
yeah, part of it,
Different rates.
part of that, but it's still, it's the old law.
Do we bring a report back?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this isn't something about.
Well, it could be, because if we have to change the whole new system,
Oh, no, I don't think
If
so.
we bring a report back to you, maybe there's a way we can tweak it so it's clear. but
It's a little clearer.
Yeah.
We can't really.
I understand what you're talking
I just, that costs a lot of money to change over if we get something like that. Or is it-
No, I don't have that answer until we bring a report back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's.
But I think it's something we gotta look at.
So you guys got a bit more work.
I have a few questions,
Sure.
but they're probably just clarity. Other revenue is listed as, we've got $53,680 this year, which we're not
Look at the
allocating
line.
next year, we're going, I like it coming in. Where'd
Yeah,
that
where's
come
it
from?
going?
But look at the line below it, I think it's just,
Oh, it's shifting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
They were increased.
I had the same thing highlighted, and then I saw it below and thought,
The other revenue is a one-time thing that I didn't expect this year too. It's a different, recovery with HSD, so.
Okay.
One of those.
And then the other question I have is the mayor's golf tournament. I don't know much about it, but it appears in both.
That's
Top
right.
to
So
bottom, that's, is
basically,
it basically a write-off or is it a?
it's a wash, but we
Okay.
take in all the revenue and again, work with the partner and we stick it in the middle. And then we have the payouts and sometimes we do something. For this budget, there's $24,000.
Just a way to flow it through. It doesn't cost anything from the town, doesn't put it in another staff time.
Right.
And the organizations get the profit. Adrian? Yeah.
So a question on land rent and full disclosure and transparency again. Our son, that's
Mhm.
land for the town of Mitchell. The Noble property has less in the actual than what the budget was for. Is that because it became less land during the season?
Yeah, and that one maybe we're a bit high on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and and then also the one that I do have pretty good knowledge about, I believe you have a contract for $4,800, not gonna quibble about $200, but the budget is for $5,000.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the
It's not us for
contract is for $4,800.
So we would reduce that by $200
Yeah,
to
that's what I said,
46,
I'm not gonna quibble it.
to 4,600.
No.
Oh.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I'm not gonna quibble it. It's the best guess, but I just wondered where did that come from?
I saw that too.
Okay. Right? Anything else?
Just a question about the NSF check fees. Do we get money from NSF check fees or we write checks that are?
Something.
I'm thinking,
No, it's under revenue.
I know, I'm thinking, so how do we get money from
We
that?
recover some of it from our, people.
Someone being
Sometimes we
attacked.
get the
See, obviously, you don't bounce any checks.
I've never bounced a check in my life that I can verify.
Usually you have to actually pay the NSF charge over and above.
Hey, thanks.
Well, yeah.
And
But we
And
recover, we have to pay for it, so.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
see,
Okay.
our bank charges us as well, Chief.
Mhm.
So NSF checks are very costly.
Yes.
They're huge,
Perfect thing.
Okay.
$45.
I didn't see how we got money.
Okay. Anything else? Good, moving on. No property.
There's a moderate increase in the conservation authority levies included in this. And then let's see, there's a revenue coming in from employees who are into council who donate a portion of their mileage to the farm.
Yeah.
And then we've added a budget for that committee.
We didn't have either.
Any questions?
All right, moving on.
Facilities and recruitment. Budget's down. There's a revenue for an initiative in the Harrison Lions building that will have to come back to council before the discussion relates to the Lions running that clinic and looking for some support there. It's just started in the new year and
Yeah.
it's to come back. Public budgeted to accommodate that.
Okay.
So are we looking at taking over that building? I just had a question of why or what's the issue here?
Possibly. Yeah, the Lions Club is quite small, they have an asset there. And there's certain limits on how they can dispose of that asset, and more the option they're looking at. And if we did get it, and it would be a council decision on whether you were to accept it, then this budget accommodates that.
There's just some due diligence being done right now. So
We'd have to report to you on
we'll have it come back to council.
it. Lions are quite small on this.
Yeah, they're only down to 3 or 4 members. Okay,
Remember, it's that's your administration.
All right.
budget.
Good.
If you wish to go to fire next,
the fire chief's right there. Imagine not to get a fire happen at the same time. Are you coming up to that, are you sitting there and talking?
whatever you'd like to get taken. Come up, take a chair.
Are you chair? You're on television.
Who's on first?
Remember, as we're getting set up here, I'm just thinking we should have a resolution on the payment issue that comes for Elliot. So if you'd like to report back to finance committee on the form of payment,
Or just direction on.
Direction, good.
that.
direction, but usually in a case like this, there's so many directions.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
It's nice to have a resolution for the report.
We have a resolution. I'll try to get a resolution. Second by Ron. All in favor?
So we get that payment.
Thank you.
So we're on tab 2 or 3 for fire department.
So, Mr. Mayor, we'll start with the overall fire budget. So this is kind of the cover sheet for the rest of them going forward. But overall, we are up a bit. And the explanation inside will show you where all the parts ended up. It's a 2.6% increase overall for the fire department. Our all this talking the servicemen measurements and calls. The calls are there. We were down a few calls, but duration of call also plays into wages. The longer they're out of them, so it might just say one call, but if they're out for 4 hours, they get paid for 4 hours per call. So I just caution you on the numbers. It's good to see it. Everyone likes to see how many calls we do, but people hours is more accurate, which hasn't been totally calculated for 2014 yet. So
Okay, I was gonna say, Chris, would you have those?
I will once. I'm still working on
Yeah.
reports for the end of
That's fine.
2014 because our Christmas season was very busy this year. So I'm still calculating on those.
Okay, yeah, that'd be nice to see, then you'd see the difference, what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you go over to administration, the biggest thing you'll see here in reserve and explanation is the 31,000 reserve payment transfer from the Hairston budget. So in 2004, there was a debenture taken out on one of the trucks. That's the thing that spurred a 25-year truck plan after that, because we said we'd never do another debenture. That was before my time. So that debenture's up. So the payment was $51,000 a year we're making to the debenture. So I've taken that money from the Hairston budget and just moved it to the administration and added to our reserve payments. So it's the same payment that we've been making all along, but instead of paying the bank, we're just paying our reserves now. So that's what that transfer is, the administration is. And you'll see the corresponding transfer out in the Hairston side. The rest is equipment maintenance. We do have some equipment issues this year. We have to test our ladder truck. Our 5-year ladder testing's up. Our air packs are being retested this year. So we're going to have a lot more equipment maintenance testing and certifications. So that's the administration. If you want, I can go through it all just quickly if you want, or if you want to ask questions on administration, you can do that as well.
Just ask questions, I think you guys. Mary Lou?
Yes, my first question, I have two actually, so sorry. My first question is the transfer to reserve has gone up by 51,000. Is that going to be, are you going to continue with that 51,000 annually and actually increase your reserves by 200 per annum?
Correct. So our reserve payment going forward is going to stay at that number.
At 200?
Yeah.
And is that necessary? Like, do you feel that your reserves need to, like, I know you do your truck plans.
Yep.
Is it necessary to move your reserves up by 50,000 a year?
I believe so, yes, because my hope is, and I'm just working on the plan, is with that equipment plan I talked about in the master fire plan, that where we, like our jaws of life and our air packs and all that stuff, and I'm hoping that our reserve funding will then eventually, over the next few years, when it builds back up, cover all of that equipment. So all of our equipment will be covered by reserves, because and anticipating in 5 years approximately we'll have to replace all our air packs, which is probably, I guess, $40,000-$50,000 expense. And all of our equipment when it comes due is very expensive, so
Right.
my goal is to have the reserves funding all of the equipment, not only the trucks, but to do that. Truck prices, you never know where they're going either, so, over 25 years. So that's my plan, and as you recall, when we did the renovation, we borrowed some money from the reserve, the truck reserve, to finance, to help finish off the renovation.
Right,
So this is replacing that as well, to build it back up to where it was,
okay.
is also where the contribution comes in.
And you have a bad debt expense of $6,000 this year.
That's recovery from MVCs. We bill for motor vehicle accidents,
Right,
and not all insurance companies want to pay us. So it goes to small collections, and they try and collect it for us after I've called, and we've tried, and Emily's tried, and it's just the battle with the very large insurance companies, and sometimes they don't pay us.
That's about the hardest bad debts, I think, non-tax that we have, and we try, but we say, no, you're not paying it.
and then my very last question, I promise.
No
We've mentioned a couple of times about the fact that there hasn't been an increase in part-time, in our volunteer wages. And we agree with you 100%. Could we once again make a motion to have a report brought forward to council? Would that be the way that we would do it? To look at the situation?
Yeah, I'm all for that, and that'd be a great idea to bring them forward, and it's hard to compare volunteer departments to departments, but I can do that and see.
Oh,
Two
I'm sorry,
questions
is there a
here.
motion on the
Yeah, there's a
floor?
motion there. I thought you were seconding the motion.
No, Councillor Gibson did.
Oh, Councilor Thurston did? Okay, all in favor of that motion? Okay, now your question.
Then I'm sorry.
Be in favor of the motion?
Of course. Two questions. One, just to follow up on the wage thing. My question was, where do we sit with other volunteer departments in the province?
I'm gonna have to do some research into that. because
Okay, that's fair.
Our pay structure inherited through amalgamation is vastly different than many other ones. So, I'll explain it all in the report.
Sure, that'd be great.
Our pay structure, the way we pay our volunteers is different than other ones. So I'll explain that all in the report and then give you a better idea.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And my last question is, in respect to the dispatch fees, it's 5,000 actual above the budgeted and also budgeted for 2015. What's the explanation on the 5,000 extra?
Our Guelph dispatch did a error in calculating. They were charging us airtime fees for the past 2 years. So we had agreed to pay them, but they didn't bill us. So that was a one-time bill that we had to pay for the 2 years of airtime fees for vulnerability that we weren't paying for that. So that's what the increase was. That's why the overage was. The reason that it's down low, we signed a new contract with them, and actually our dispatch fees went lower because they switched to per capita. And luckily, because we have a small population, our dispatch fees actually went down, whereas Center Wellington went up about $24,000 a year.
Yep, okay, thank you.
I have a question about Hep B vaccines. Why are we paying for Hep B vaccines and it looks like it's only one?
It's optional for people that are out there, I believe still, right?
Oh, not mandatory?
Not, it's for people like in the public, we make it mandatory that when you join the department, it's mandatory. So it's always been a thing that if we make it mandatory for our firefighters, then we believe we should pay for them to get the vaccine, so.
But only one? So most people already have.
Most
been
people coming in
vaccinated?
already have it vaccinated, so
I
yes.
just wondered about the numbers. I'm thinking,
No,
if we're doing everybody, then it would be higher than that. If we're
Yeah.
not doing everybody, then.
most already have it, and the reason I buzzed a little bit is we just did a recruitment night last night, which I'm happy to say we had 25 to 30 people come out.
Nice.
So I anticipate with the 8 or 9 that we're gonna bring on right away, that we'll have to pay for some time to start the process.
Really?
I'm sorry.
She said you
I
said.
know, I said I was done and then I paid forward and I just said one more. It says that the Harrison Station's budget is larger because they don't have a fire protection agreement.
Correct.
Can you explain a fire protection agreement and why Harrison doesn't and the other two?
Because Harrison is, the center of the universe, no, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Because Harrison is, in the middle, they don't protect any neighboring municipalities, so Palmerston. No. No, because, Palmerston, for example, Perth County comes right up, North Perth comes right up the edge of Palmerston, so we protect a portion of that because we're closer. So they pay us to have fire protection in that area. Same thing with Howick, off on the other side, Howick comes right up the edge of Clifford, so they pay Clifford, they pay us to protect that area, because it takes a lot to bring the fire down. In this area, Harrison, really, the Mount Forest can cover off most of the areas.
So if you would get called to another fire though, you would bill that department?
No, a fire protection agreement, they agree to pay us, and it's in the budgets, like in the Casino Palmerston, it's in the budget, that they agree to pay us a certain amount of money, flat fee, to respond. So we could respond to 4 calls in that area, we could respond to 24 calls.
But what I mean is if Mount Forest called Harrison and to help them with the fire,
That's mutual aid.
oh, mutual aid, there's no
Yes.
charge for that.
No, that's a reciprocal agreement that we are willing to help them, and they can come help us at any time.
Okay.
So that's the difference there. But when you have a portion that's so close that we're the closest station to respond, traditionally, you sign an agreement that they pay you to protect that area.
It probably makes sense from a dollar and cents for them not to have a station closer.
Right.
So it just works out, the better pay us, less to it.
And we don't pay anybody the same sort of services because
No. You will see a report coming forward that, Mildly, Sub Bruce is asking that we work with them to help protect a certain area of Mildly's area, but that's a report for, to be discussed. That we have budget implications. So Clifford's budget is, you can see, is status quo. So there's no change to their budget. There's no change to really their budget. We will be looking at a smaller, like not a additioning that, but a renovation within their fire hall one of these years, because right now we have 1 washroom. We need to renovate. We have inherited the nursery school part of it, so we need to do some renovations to have male and female washrooms, proper accessibility and that kind of things for our firefighters. And looking at moving the bunker gear room into the nursery school portion of it, so that it's off the floor away from the diesel fumes of the trucks. But that's in the future. The Harrison Hall, as you can see, the 51,000 is taken out of this budget and moved to the admin budget as explained. The aerial truck is a 1989 aerial truck. It is presently down at Brantford getting some repairs done. It's repairs we kind of off a couple years ago. We have to get them done now. Some hydraulic cylinders that need to be repaired and stuff like that. And then the building maintenance is a bigger building. We just have a little bit more maintenance for, keeping things up to snuff and equipment, furnaces checked and that type of thing.
So before you leave it, the aerial truck, I remember when we got that. Is that a nice to have? We should have it.
In my opinion, and I stand by this, it's a necessity for a department to have. We bought that one used when it was 15 or 17 years old. And we spent $90,000, I believe, on that truck. A brand new aerial truck is in excess of $1 million. So the way that we go, I firmly believe, is the right way to go. And I'll give you one example, and there's many examples, but the safety of chimney fires. There's so many steel roofs out in the municipality now people are going to, especially in our Amish community, and it is not safe to put firefighters on the steel roof in the middle of winter to have fight a chimney fire. So having that aerial truck is
Perfect.
our safety. So
Excellent.
that's my belief.
Good explanation.
So that's the Harrison one, and then the Palmerston one. It's slight increase. Just that their calls were, as you can see, they were very busy last year. So we've just accommodated that. Palmerston is pretty much a status quo, and as you can see right at the top there, it's approximately $60,000 that North Perth pays us to cover that section. The Howick agreement is about $19,000 for covering a small portion of Howick.
Any other questions?
One question, just with the increased training of confined spaces, and I see you're looking forward to going to water rescue. I'm anticipating increased calls based on what services, or you'll be able to provide the service, or already get calls, things like that, you're just not able to help.
Exactly, yes, we set the ladder, yes. We, when we do get calls, then we will be able to help them, so not have to call someone else in. So they don't make up like 0.1% of the calls. So it's gonna cost us to keep the training up, but it'll save us the fee of paying, because if we brought another department in to perform that rescue, we would have to pay them to do that.
And it's water, you maybe don't have much time.
No, if it's water, then you're right, we would be.
And I think you point out too, Chris, that you're able to do, find space training and hopefully some of the water stuff that was donated. We fundraised for some, so it was a great, again, back to what we get great value from our fire departments, for what we pay on an individual basis, for protection.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of it was, the master fire plan,
Yeah.
the public input into it, the public was aware of it, that we actually had businesses come to us and say that, you know, we want you to be part of this event, and they wanted the money to go to confined space. That was the first touch point that they asked, and it goes to that. And we've already had 2 major businesses step forward and said they want to put money towards the water rescue, so it's a neat thing to have, but it's actually people coming to us and saying, we really want you to do this, and here's what we'll do for you, so I think it's cool.
I'm not in any way saying, I'm just wondering whether it had an impact on you getting more calls. No, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, I think we should. Whatever you do. You guys are first line out there, I know, I'm on the receiving end.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you do whatever you're able to
To
do.
bring them alive.
Exactly.
And then the confined space training, I didn't realize until we got talking about it. I mean, how many farm situations and other situations we have out there that really we would have been sitting there we wouldn't be able to do anything. And it's so important now, and I think that's why there's quite a few farm businesses came to you and give you money to help, because they see the need out there. I mean, we put ourselves in harm's way all the time, in farming and other construction jobs. And from our, just looking at our whole floodplain and all that stuff, as far as our water rescue, we kind of need that too, because it's not like having a big motorboat running around, but it's these small crafts that you can bring people out. You know, otherwise, how do you get them out? You can't carry them out and stretcher through water. So it's amazing when you see this. If you get a chance and see some of this equipment, it's quite unique.
Right, facility mayor.
Oh, do you think we have time to say? Oh, Alan's here. Sure.
Start with the center of the universe of Clifford.
You're doing better.
I'm getting closer though, right?
Maybe we can field questions on Clifford, followed by Harrison, followed by Palmerston, if that's okay.
Sure, that'd be fine. Questions?
Heck of a job, man. Good questions.
It's a good one.
Clifford Arena's good, Clifford ball and soccer. Just a note on that, you have 2 cover sheets, and then the background information is split between the 2. So we confuse it.
Okay, I got some questions now.
No, it's such a silly one, I hate to ask it, but, there's absolutely no budget for cleaning supplies or washing supplies, and I just.
I'm sorry, and
In, Clifford Park. Or Clifford Ball Soccer in Clifford Parks.
the cost of the supplies is so minimal, we just simply bring them from, it's across the road from the arena, so we just bring them.
Okay.
Gene?
The only question, well, a couple of questions, but the first one here was on hockey minor, the actual post was 13, we're looking at that being 27 again, so I don't know what's going to change to increase the, and I know we've struggled with these arenas historically for years and the use of them, but yes.
The revenues come in end of the year for the fall, so that's probably only half the season.
Okay, so it's just.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Your kind of projections on those, it's a little tricky.
I wasn't sure if we were just hoping it's gonna get busier
No.
or.
No, you can tell from the bookings. So
And the year before usually.
that's good news. We're on.
So into Harrison, yeah, we're okay with
Yeah, we're moving on. So, moving.
That's correct, yes.
Just to note there, we've taken the reserve out and it's paid out into, the roof payment has come out,
Right.
that's going into reserve.
Similar to fire.
And there is a 14 that's hanging down below the 13. And the initiatives,
Is that, just for something?
my mistake.
Okay. I didn't bring the ad one in there. Initiative. Okay.
You're saying here revenues are down. Now, is there any move to bring them back up or?
This is in the mall.
Yeah.
What happened was we had one lady's slow pitch team that folded, and there was a minor ball team that was a little bit of, I guess, overflow from Palmerston that just wasn't there anymore. We budgeted the revenue same as this year. There's a possibility that we could go up again. But at this point, I'd rather not budget that way because we won't know until probably May.
You can't guess.
I'd rather err on the safe side at this point.
Okay.
Now, concession revenue is way down too, but we budgeted the same amount, or we're anticipating it, but is that the same, that it hasn't come in yet, or? It was,
I think with the
This is
concession revenues will probably be down a little bit. The concession, everything's proportionate with wages and supplies and things of that nature. At the end of the year, we double check our inventories and journal entries are made based on whether we had extra inventory as opposed to last year's year end. So until we get the year end tidied up.
and do we operate the concession booths in all three lanes, or the volunteers, or how does that work?
It's volunteer, the CRA runs it in Clifford,
Okay.
and we look after the concessions in Harrison and Palmerston.
Thanks, Rich. Is that just a percentage,
I'm sorry?
utilities? Is that just a percentage, yeah?
Treasurer Duff informed me that this year, the gas, it is a percentage. Gas is gonna go up 23% this year, and then we're locked in, so the next 2 years, we're not anticipating an increase in gas. Hydro this year is to go up 5%, and next year, 1%. Is how it's been calculated.
So we're going, sorry, Dave, if I might just add on to Dave's question. So we're going to lock in to natural gas?
Yeah, we have,
Yeah.
that's back in the summer.
That's what I thought. That's why I was a little
Yeah,
confused.
so right here, we generally do like 3-year hedging, and we try and sneak that against it, so sometimes we get out, on electricity, we've been writing the market 50 years, and we're marking from that too, so it's a bit of crystal ball gazing, but we're trying to get some for supply.
Anything else? No. Okay, go just right on.
Norwell, will they starting the program next year with that? With having a starting program to have school kids going to be talking to 7 people that do now, just included in what they normally have.
It's going to increase our revenue. We haven't discussed how we're gonna go about doing that, but that's gonna go to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. And I think what we're going to look at doing is perhaps, Norwell right now pays an annual fee for ball diamonds and things. And we probably look at incorporating it onto the annual fee based on usage, number of classes.
And I just have to start in,
It should be starting next year, but we haven't
that no cost.
proved that.
Anything else? No,
Anderson?
Henry Andrew?
Oh, yes, I have a question on Palmerston one. The ice resurfacer, is that like similar to how we set up the fire trucks and whatnot, that there's a reserve going in to purchase, the ice servicer?
We try to put reserve money away.
Is that on the asset management schedule?
Not, the one that we approved, not yet, because it just covered what they call core assets.
Oh,
That's one of my goals to incorporate fire.
Okay.
So, again, I don't know what I know you said that, but it's like, there's such a discrepancy between them, like we paid 50,000 for each, but we're budgeting 89. And I know we're only to October, but so add another 5 to 10, which is like $40,000.
October probably means July.
Oh, okay.
West Aerial is doesn't get us our invoices very quick.
Oh, do we take that one, give them the payment?
That's not.
On that.
Gas is usually somewhere in the neighborhood of a month behind hydro. It's not uncommon for
Right, so it's
2
not,
months.
it's not looking at 2 months.
And in the winter season, it does go up, and sometimes it makes it difficult at this point to budget without those year-end numbers in. So that's what it's based on last year's budget.
And then liquor sales and commerce, we just have a more partying group there, we need to get those sales the same as the other.
They seem-
Double Harrison, we quadruple.
They seem to be a little more festive. A lot of that has to do with.
That's what it is, that's why Palmerston is instead of the university, that's the party center.
There's quite a few more tournaments, with the 2 ball diamonds, the baseball diamonds, we do a lot.
Senior hockey as well.
Senior hockey, broom ball tournaments are there. And then you've got functions like the preceding barbecue that does quite well, and the Lions Club, elimination, Valentine's dance. No, not to say that the other parts of town don't do well, we don't have some nice events as well for that, but just not as many.
Where's the summer blue ball, sorry, summer hockey leagues fitting? Is it fitting with the
Harrison.
Palmerston,
The ball hockey,
ball and soccer, yeah?
you're looking at the worksheets, Counselor Turner?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm looking at.
Okay, well, that's
That's why you're asking.
if you look at our revenues on the worksheets,
Okay.
and we're gonna go down to, now you watch, the account 1081035834. 3 and 4 right.
Okay. 358.
5830.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Good? Yep. Recreation facility, parks, satellite facilities. But Al gets a lot of these satellite facilities.
Before,
Astronaut.
I made a mistake on this, and the mistake being is you're gonna notice that the worksheets total 462. And my main sheet here is 48,462. The reason being is I've neglected to put $1,000 in reserves for the Palmerston CN station.
Okay, so the reserve is number 7, should be 1,000 more, 1,000 less.
1,000 more
Or more.
is my recommendation, so there'd be $3,000 going into a reserve pool for our satellite facilities, and be billing 1,000 to the Harrison Town Hall and the Palmerston and Harrison train stations.
First mistake this year.
The only thing is your budget to actual issues. I wasn't sure because you're talking about the county paid utilities in 2013.
When it was used as a library.
So I don't know why that's affecting the budget to actual, so you're doing either year.
Well, when I budgeted for 2014, I should have been budgeting off a higher number for the increase. is what I'm saying.
All right,
But
Now I'm with you.
That's where I made.
okay.
Sorry.
If we could go to recreation, maybe if we're done with facilities management.
Thank
I
you.
think your next tab may be built.
Yeah, it is, Bill, but you have to stick up here on recreation.
And I'm gonna ask you, we could do economic development before the build and then we can bid her in.
Take a break.
Whatever you could do.
I was just gonna say save the best for last.
Yeah.
That's
Let's do recreation and building, and then we'll take a break, a few minutes, and then we'll do economic development. And we'll kill public works.
Orange tab, public, or orange tab, recreation, special program.
Yeah. Special programs.
I like to minus. Just with respect to special programs, that's a bit of a catch-all for some of the things that we do in the department that aren't administrative. For example, bus trips that the retirees group goes on, their revenue and expense go through these accounts. We have a lot of different programs like the babysitter course, grassroots programs, fitness classes, and then other programs like Smart Serve and whatnot. So we're proposing the same surplus as this year. And I think that's going to be pretty accurate before we finish this year too. So I'm not sure if there's any questions with respect to special programs.
How do we transform that type of operation to some of the other departments?
Well, and I guess my one question would be, there's no staff time built into this, so be a little careful. This is a plus, but at the same token, we haven't complicated it, and it would be complicated to try to take 2 hours and max. Whatever, so.
Through Mayor Bridge and to answer Deputy Faulkner's question, yes, there is no staff wages allocated here, so any of my time or Tanya's time to assist with these programs, it gets allocated to recommend, which is coming up next.
No free lunches, I'm saying.
With respect to recreation, the biggest increase would be in wages and benefits, and that's for the restructure that is taking place. So yeah, basically there would be myself, facilities and recreation assistant, and then a portion of the rec facility manager's wage that would find its home here. Aside from that, there are no other major increases or decreases.
I was wondering, we have full-time equivalent of 3 people, but we have 2 people and 70% of the others, so that is 2.7. So I just wondering, is that just because you're in transition of the process of restructuring, or?
More or less, I rounded up, but you couldn't put 2.7 because that's exactly what it is. You're right. You're right.
And I think what we're hoping from this position is that, and we haven't put pressure on the revenue side yet, but we're hoping that if we have this full-time help in there, that we can do more recreation programs, plus we can get facilities more active and through a marketing plan and make it work. So in fairness, it's hard to know until you actually figure your marketing plan out to throw a revenue, but I'm hoping by next year, we'll sit here, that there should be a revenue offset for some of this as well. That's sort of the challenge I give you guys. That you should be looking at that as part of this whole process. I think everybody understands that. Yeah,
As Mayor Bridge mentioned, facilities and recreation, we work very closely
Yeah.
together and have the shared positions to provide us an opportunity to try and increase revenues not only from rentals, but some of our programs as well. And hopefully decrease that deficit.
what did you want to say?
That's good.
Sure, very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Matt.
Next sheet, Palmerston Pool. One good area there is the government wage subsidies that we apply for and have received have increased the last couple of years, which is great. It helps. There's 2 or 3 that we apply for, and the amount that we've been receiving, as I mentioned, has increased. We've budgeted for a bit more there, as well as our swim admission and pass revenue. We're looking at some modest price increases there to help generate a bit more revenue without having them be too unaffordable or too expensive for our residents. Any questions?
Right.
Move on to the tender.
Yeah.
Just with respect to the Northern, it looks like we're gonna finish on or above budget this year. It's been great to see that we've been able to hold the average per show, increase the average per show, and we actually held more shows. We had more matinees, so that resulted in higher revenues. We held a couple of special events that did well as well. So we're proposing the same surplus there. Any questions about the Northern?
Just I'm curious, the 2014 mortgage is down to 36,000. Is that going to remain the same or?
It will go down, the policy is we reduce, we take the operating surplus here, we take 3/4 of that,
Okay.
5 months of that. So we're on track, I would say by 2017.
Right.
We have that eliminated, it's gone very well. And they've also been able to add a little bit to the equipment reserve too. And of course, making the whole digital conversion, that I'm responsible for the things. So it's going very well.
Extremely well. Well done.
It's a good news story.
It is, sure is. That's what I wrote in my comment. Good news.
And I also think, if I could,
Yes, go ahead.
think that with the Northern, the use of it is just, the board is of the mind that we're here to provide a service to the community as much as we'd like to make money. Sometimes we bring in a show or do things so that we provide some entertainment or some service for the community. We thought how great if we make money, if we don't. It appears we seem to make money on most projects that we do. So that their thoughts are, and I know our council's thoughts are, that we do provide a service for the community. It's good, we make money, it's on top of it, and we've got a really good person on this that helps us progress over the last few years.
Thank you.
Venture Camp, so that's basically our day camp program that we run at the Palmerston Curling Club and the Harrison Curling Club in the summer months. And then over March break, we pick up shop in the auditoriums.
Questions? Questions? Questions on air? Hanging in there, right? All right. All right. Moving forward, health and safety.
It's just necessary spend health and safety. We were able to train all of our full and part-time staff doing the mandatory employee awareness training
we were able to do that online through a online company, and that was a good experience. We've got some different other modules, so it really helps, especially when we have so many different departments trying to track down some of the staff, make sure they're trained. So on the health and safety.
Question? Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much.
I just want to point out that recreation and facilities, just an amazing what we have. And I tell people, 9,000 people, we have 3 arenas, all the infrastructure we have. We kind of look at how do you do that. And you do it because you have good people working in the facilities, maximize it as much as you can, good programming, and what it adds value. And I know this from an economic development standpoint, and Belinda, I've talked about this many times. Quality of life is one of the #1 keys. You know, we have to invest in these infrastructure programs. I know, so if we can get them to work even more efficiently by adding revenue, and that will help to get that revenue. I think we'll never get them out of a deficit, because there's a part of them that is there to provide the service, gives you economic development on the other side. So you're never going to see these running. Like an arena will never run at a profit if you have to charge the profit price. Excuse me, you wouldn't have any kids playing hockey or blue ball or anything. So we look at that, but we also, I like the way that this budget's laid out again, that we're making that deficit as small as possible. Thank you. Not going to lose my voice soon, so dear me, Ann, get that back then. Okay.
Okay, so here's my 2015 budget. I'm seeing a decrease of touch over 14,000 due to staff leaving and hiring different positions to replace. Other than that, looks like you have a development charge study that needs to be done this year, and that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yep. Any questions?
What's your feeling on it, Terry? Is there still you have lots of company in your office, people come in and say hello?
Lots of company, lots of behind the scenes tire kickers and all that. I think it's going to be a good year. So next year, it really looks like it. So.
Belinda keep bringing some more people.
I keep bringing Belinda more. Generating my own business. Exactly.
It's all about you.
Yes.
Mayor Bruce, there's 2,200 in the difference. I think those are small items within the budget, but I haven't identified individual here. And decreases, I would think.
All right. All right, we're going to take a break now. And